Hello, I'm Tim Goodfellow and welcome to another episode of the Paytech Show, brought to you in partnership with ACI Worldwide. We're always looking to shine a spotlight on payments innovation around the world, and in this episode, we'll be heading to Latin America to see how the Colombian payments ecosystem has transformed in recent years. With the widespread adoption of mobile devices, a society that has been primarily cash-based is seeing major changes in the way it does payments. That includes a surge in mobile payments and a range of alternative payment methods being made available to consumers. And it's helped by a countrywide drive for financial inclusion and innovation. We had the pleasure of speaking to a number of players in the space, including global software company ACI Worldwide, who provide real-time electronic payment solutions. Doug McKenzie visited Colombia to speak to one of ACI's LATAM representatives, Sonia Gomez, who was able to fill us in on a number of the changes in the Colombian banking and payments space. We found out how they're helping businesses and institutions in Colombia harness the power of cross-border payments, and got some predictions for how people will pay in the next few years. Also in this episode, we spoke to Guillermo Gonzalez from BBVA Colombia, who gave us some details and figures relating to the Colombian payment space and its role in the region. You'll get an update on the economic situation and some of the key trends that have contributed to recent changes. We also heard from Maria Prieto from the Colombian central bank, Banco de la República Colombia. She was able to provide some great insights into the space and added further depth to the conversation, expanding on some of the challenges that are still faced by businesses and consumers in LATAM. It's an excellent insight into the space, and we really hope that you enjoy this episode of the Paytech Show.
Now, Sonia, Colombia has such a powerful role in Latin America, and it's gone through such a wealth of changes when it comes to the banking scene, but more importantly, the payment scene. Could you tell our viewers back home who might be really intrigued about some of the changes that have been happening here in banking and payments in Colombia?
Yes, definitely. I have seen in all these years, I have seen a lot of changes in the country and the way that we are making payments.
Right.
So definitely, at the beginning was like the normal or the standard financial institution, but we are seeing a lot of participants now in the ecosystem. So now we have a lot of opportunities, we have a lot of participants of the ecosystem, and we have more options to pay. So the way that people is making payments is totally different than 20 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, what to you stands out as some of the biggest changes in between those 20 years?
One of the biggest changes I do believe that has been with the internet penetration and mobile phone.
Yeah,
definitely.
Truly.
Because what we are seeing here is that we have now this ecosystem where we can make payments everywhere. Yeah. So no matter if you are in the mountain, no matter if you are in a city, you can make payments. Of course, we are still missing some of the infrastructure for doing that, but the telecoms and the opportunities that we have is very important to use the payments ecosystem here in the country, and also the education in payments has been changed a lot.
I think that is the perfect way to set the scene because, as you said, we've had a number of traditional incumbents, but now there are so many new players joining, it's time to evolve. And I'm going to tune the conversation more towards what ACI offers here today, and that is cross-border payments. And I'm really intrigued to see how cross-border payments themselves have changed in South and Latin America as well, with Colombia sitting on both the Pacific and the Caribbean. It's perfectly placed to facilitate payments to Brazil, down further south and further north, right?
Yeah, that's correct. It's still missing some things, definitely, because the regulation is building now.
Okay.
But definitely there are options. So the traditional payment rails of the banking, of the traditional banking is the way that we are using to pay for that.
Yeah.
But now with these new actors that are bringing opportunities to the people in order to send money, to get with facilitators, etc. It's more easier to do that, but it's still not an initiative that the government regulates. So now it's exciting here in the country that the central bank is leading that initiative of immediate payments, but also the way that we can make cross-border payments in a regulated way.
Amazing. Now, you speak to this kind of new infrastructure growing. What are the opportunities that come from exploring payments in a scene or an ecosystem where there's not much infrastructure? Do you have a lot of opportunity to go beyond what maybe traditional infrastructures like Europe are struggling with?
Yeah, the traditional infrastructure and the way that we were not prepared at some point breeds some ideas.
Yeah.
So new participants, there is a reality is that you have the offer and demand, and you need to position your products. So we are so good in Colombia in bringing new ideas and be creative in order to say, let's establish this new payment method of this closed loop ecosystem in order to enable those payments. So with the demand and also the offering, we are creating new alternative payments here in the country. So we have now several options, QR code payments, Nequi, DaviPlata, etc., where basically they are connecting more people in order to make payments.
Bueno, ¿por qué no empezamos un poco para que nos des tu perspectiva de cómo está la situación actual en la parte bancaria y sobre todo en los pagos aquí en Colombia, en referencia también en América Latina?
Perfecto. Pues la verdad es que yo empezaría por decir que el sistema financiero de Colombia es un sistema sólido. Es un sistema conformado por alrededor de unos 20 bancos que han surgido a partir de diferentes fusiones en el tiempo, con una presencia muy fuerte de bancos locales y también con unos internacionales muy competitivos, entre ellos por supuesto BBVA, que se posiciona como un banco retador, ¿no? Que llega al sistema en Colombia a traer tecnología del mundo y a impulsar el desarrollo del país, y es un poco nuestra responsabilidad como banco internacional. También mencionaría que es un sistema que está bien gestionado, que ha superado diferentes crisis. Lo que aprendimos en la crisis del 98 ha sido base para la construcción de unos cimientos muy fuertes y que nos ayudaron a superar las crisis del 2008, la pandemia, por ejemplo, y nos ha dejado muy bien parados en este momento. Diría también que nos favorece el ecosistema de innovación que tiene el país. Tal vez después de México somos el ecosistema más activo a nivel de innovación, de fintechs, y eso permite que haya una evolución bastante positiva. Y luego el relacionamiento privado-público nos ha ayudado a crecer. Por dar algunos datos, en 10 años hemos incrementado cerca de 25 puntos porcentuales la penetración o la inclusión financiera. Pasamos de 67% de adultos con algún producto bancario a un 92%. Y además la regulación colombiana ha facilitado que esto suceda, ¿vale? La inclusión de productos nuevos como el depósito electrónico, la posibilidad de nuevos actores como los corresponsales bancarios que nos permiten acercar las transacciones financieras al público en general. También por darles algunos datos, tenemos cerca de 125 corresponsales bancarios por cada 10.000 adultos en Colombia, lo que permite que el sistema esté verdaderamente cerca a Colombia. Y en cuanto a pagos específicamente hablando, es importante el papel de las redes que tenemos. Tenemos unas redes bien gestionadas, bien administradas, que nos han llevado a tener una posición relativa bastante interesante en términos de uso de tarjetas débito y crédito, facilitando la interoperabilidad entre las diferentes redes, y también con una penetración bastante positiva en términos, por ejemplo, de contactless. 1 de cada 4 transacciones en Colombia con tarjetas se realiza a través de medios sin contacto. Dicho esto, cuando nos comparamos con América Latina, todavía la participación del efectivo es muy amplia, es muy grande. Okay. Cuando hablamos de transacciones per cápita, en Colombia se están realizando unas 15 transacciones per cápita, ¿vale? Sin embargo, vemos Brasil y hace 95. Cuando vamos a hablar de tarjetas de débito, Colombia hace 9 transacciones por cápita, que compara no tan bien al lado de México, Argentina, que hace 26, o Brasil, que hace 54. Y si vamos a tarjeta de crédito, donde todavía tenemos menores penetraciones, Colombia hace 5 transacciones por persona, mientras que México 8, Argentina 18 y Brasil cerca de 48. En Colombia la participación del efectivo todavía es muy alta. Cuando lo vemos en términos relativos, como porcentaje del PIB, estamos hablando de que ronda el 10,8%, mientras que en México es el 8,5%, en Argentina el 5,8% y en Brasil cerca del 5%. La verdad es que creo que tenemos el entorno para seguir creciendo el entorno para ir a pagos cada vez más digitales, pero todavía tenemos unos retos importantes que tenemos que abordar.
Well, I can tell you what, having just been to Colombia, I can see that innovation is at the front and center of payments over there. I was able to split an empanada payment into 24 different tranches, which I thought was absolutely incredible. And I love seeing how these high growth nations are really leapfrogging some of the traditional industries that we've seen before. So I've kind of set my quite recent but very vague description of payments in Colombia. I was only there for a couple of days. Could you give our viewers a bit more of a background, set the scene? What's the banking scene like in Colombia? What's the payment scene like? And are there any stark comparisons to the rest of South America?
Yeah, sure. We are, despite all of the innovation, the fintech wave, and a lot of improvement that we have had in the last years, we are still a very high dependent economy on cash, highly depending on cash. Around 68-70% of daily transactions are done in cash, which is roughly what we are seeing in Latin America, taking out of Brazil and perhaps Mexico. The rest of the country here are around those figures. So cash is still very dominant, especially in the vulnerable segments of the population and in rural areas. That's still the situation. To give you a little bit of the picture around financial inclusion, 90% of adult population have already access to a basic account, which is very good, but we are still having challenges around the usage of those accounts. Most of the people, what actually they do is that they go to an ATM and just withdraw totally the resources. And so financial inclusion is not really like giving us all of the advantages and benefits for the end user. But we are on the road. We are having a lot of new players into the game. We are having fintechs, and we are having traditionals and incumbents players also having a lot of transformation on their channels and on their business models. So payments, it's something that has undergone a lot of change in the last, I would say, 5 years or so in the country. We already have a fast payment system going on. It is still in its very early phases, getting more players into that scheme and promoting confidence and trust and promotion in general terms into population. We are still lacking a lot of interoperability in that scheme and in the other type of payment solutions so that we can have something, seamlessly for the end user. But that's kind of the context that we are seeing right now.
What are some of the challenges businesses face when trying to transfer money cross-border?
I guess we, as the rest of the other emerging countries in the region and in other parts of the world, again, despite the new type of technologies and businesses models, we are still encountering a lot of frictions, costs, FX risk, liquidity risk for those business models for the players. So at the end, what we are still having is a very traditional scheme for the cross-border payments in which a lot of players are involved, and the end user at the end is the one that is having all of these frictions and facing a lot of costs. Yeah. Most of the users of the cross-border payments in the country, as you are mentioning, are the users of remittances. So this is a very vulnerable segment of the population. So we really need to move on into how can innovation and new technologies can really jump into this flow and come up with new alternatives. We are exploring, understanding and getting more knowledge around the new experiments around CBDC wholesale, around a little bit of the new models, or perhaps trying to link the local payment system with others. All of these are really big projects, very complex solutions at the end, and requires a lot of coordination between countries, jurisdictions, and authorities, of course. But that's where I believe that the role of the central bank has a lot of value, so that it can not only provide perhaps that infrastructure, but probably help to build a table, build a conversation. If there's regulation that you need to assess or modify or build, that's something that obviously is very also a place in which the central bank can help. So I think that's more of the challenges that we are going to have to encounter on the next following years, definitely.
Fascinating. Yeah, it's a huge challenge, but I'm sure it's one that is surmountable because of the amount of innovation that is going on currently. And I kind of also want to dive in a bit deeper. I know we talked about cash being king, but every country seems to have its own LPM, or a local payment method, that is becoming quite popular around the country. Are there any in Colombia that you could tell our audience a bit about? Are there any that come to your mind that you think, this is really exciting, this fintech has really taken over and people are excited by it?
We are having, and that's something that I want to maybe highlight, the innovation that we are seeing is coming actually from incumbents. We have two very big closed loop systems, which are, one of them is managed by a bank, a very traditional bank. It comes with an e-wallet, and it built in the last, I'll say 10 years or so, all of the operation around that e-mobile wallet. It's very popular, people are using it. I think that it helped a lot in the pandemic. It helped to deliver, for example, emergency subsidies, emergency aids that the government were sending to people. And that was possible precisely because we could use that channel entirely digital for the end user and at a very low cost or zero cost for them. Very similar, we have another one which is called Neki. It is also a fintech, but behind it there's a very big bank, Banco Colombia. The first one is DaviPlata, I did not mention it, and behind it we have Davivienda, which is the other very big bank here and traditional bank here in Colombia. They're doing great. They are deploying a lot of QR codes, so expanding access in those very small merchants, which traditionally were not having acceptance of digital payments. So they're helping to open the market and to give access to more people. Perhaps the challenge that we now have is how can we help so that those type of solutions become interoperable, precisely, so that we can, all have more benefits and even grow even more the figures that they already have.
Y es perfecto para mi siguiente pregunta, hablando de los retos y digamos los desafíos más grandes que enfrentan las empresas para hacer transacciones. ¿Cuáles crees que sean estos y cuáles son los países en los que tú ves que los clientes del BBVA hacen más transacciones? ¿Cómo ves esa parte de los retos del país?
Bueno, mira, yo hablaría de dos bloques. Partamos de la persona natural, la persona que necesita entregarle dinero a una empresa. Los pagos P2B no están tan desarrollados todavía en el país y esto tiene bastante que ver con dificultades en la igualdad de accesos. Todavía tenemos unas brechas importantes que suplir, entre ellas una brecha, por ejemplo, entre lo rural y lo urbano. La brecha que hay todavía entre hombres y mujeres en Colombia es bastante amplia y las brechas que hay según la vulnerabilidad financiera que tienen nuestros clientes, ¿vale? También en algunos casos estamos viendo que el sistema en Colombia se percibe como costoso, en parte por los impuestos a las transacciones, en parte por algunos cargos que se realizan upfront y en parte por la eficiencia del sistema en sí mismo. Y yo creo que aquí tenemos una oportunidad relevante de gestionar involucrando a nuevos actores a los ecosistemas de pago en Colombia. Creo que todavía tenemos que ganar en capilaridad, creo que todavía tenemos una fragmentación de algunas de las innovaciones que hemos ido realizando en el país y que han hecho que las entidades que estamos trabajando en este ecosistema de pagos tengamos que fragmentar también los esfuerzos de innovación y de masificación, y ahí tenemos una oportunidad bastante importante en el país. Si hablamos un poco de pagos internacionales y de las empresas, ¿no? Que me lo comentabas también, sí. Yo creo que Colombia es un hub para Latinoamérica de esas transferencias internacionales. Sin embargo, no hemos recuperado los flujos que traíamos prepandemia. ¿vale? Antes de pandemia teníamos pagos por importaciones de bienes, por darte números, que ascendían a cerca de 45.000 millones de dólares y exportaciones que ascendían a 35.000 millones de dólares. Y todavía vemos que no llegamos a esos niveles. Hay unos sectores más afectados que otros, por ejemplo, hidrocarburos y minería viene sin recuperar todavía la participación que tenía anteriormente. Sin embargo, hay elementos que se comportan bastante bien. Por ejemplo, la inversión extranjera directa con relación al año inmediatamente anterior creció un 25%. Yo creo que hay mecanismos para hacer las transferencias internacionales. Yo creo que el dinero fluye bastante bien, la regulación colombiana lo permite, la regulación colombiana se ha cuidado de que estos pagos sean seguros, que cumplan la reglamentación internacional y nos deja bien posicionados en la forma de operarlo.
Can we talk a bit more about ACI's offering here in Colombia in particular, please?
Yeah, here in Colombia, we have passed across the evolution. It means that at the beginning, we were the providers of technology for the banks and traditional banks, ATMs, POS, connecting the card scheme, etc. But now we are providing for all the other actors of the ecosystem. So we have evolved with them because nowadays the ecosystem is having more participants, the customer are requiring more things, and we are evolving together. So we are bringing more solutions like the issuing banking, acquiring system, payments gateway, etc., all in a single platform. And the most important is that we are expanding payments. This is our core system.
You're number one.
Yeah, number one.
Absolutely amazing. And I've had a look at your product suite. And can you tell us a bit more about ACI's enterprise platform, please?
Yeah, ACI Enterprise Platform is a single platform that is tailored for all the kind of customer and industries. So basically, if you are a gateway, a retailer, PSP, or you are a big bank, or even you are another kind of industry, a hotel, a car rental, you are able to use our technology because we can able to tailor that in a single experience, that technology.
That's fascinating because typically you see organizations work with, for instance, just the bank to enable their backend, but you can actually go into the PSPs and then the merchant at the very end of it and help them adapt to these new changes, right?
That's perfect, yeah.
Absolutely amazing.
What we are doing nowadays, and basically also what one of our core message here is that we are not making our customer dependent on us. We are giving the technology to them to evolve the solution to the way that they want.
Yeah.
So every single business is different. The requirements of the end customer are different. So they are able to tailor with tools like SDKs, etc., in order to progress and do by themselves.
Yeah, because I can imagine in Brazil, hotels must cater to a huge amount of Japanese tourists, very different payment methods to something in Colombia, and to have an organization with your experience that can tailor and tweak to those demands is absolutely amazing.
It's absolutely true. We are tailoring the solution, but also we are knowing the business. We are knowing the local market, because it's not the same what you are saying like, okay, I know the Brazilian market, but you are not living there. So definitely the culture, the understanding of the market, the language, and knowing those requirements is totally different in order to make a different product. Even if the technology is the same at the end of the day, the product or the end product is different and based on the customer demands.
Could you tell our viewers a bit more about ACI's Fast Start Acquiring program too?
Yeah, this program is focused on our acquirers, those acquirers and sub-acquirers that definitely need to be able to offer different products, methods to the end customer. So if you are a small retailer and you want to enable the payment that you are bringing, for example, from the UK, and you want to make payments, but definitely you don't have time to enable that because it's time. Every time you need to be more agile.
Yeah.
So with our solution, it's a solution that is able in the cloud, certified with the technology and security that you need in order to process that. This is a program that in just 100 days you are able to make testing and be ready to launch new products. So our customers wants that because definitely, again, customer want to take care of the core business rather than take care of the technology. So enable end customer is our key message in that.
It's brilliant because it really exemplifies the nature of fintech and paytech and the fact that we're getting to a point with so many new players. The banks, as we say, want to focus on their core role, and they need partners like you guys to be able to provide that at the highest level at all times.
And I guess that you had mentioned something key. It's like we are not thinking in our customer like customer. We are partners of them. So we are evolving together the business. So between all of us, basically what we are bringing is experience from other markets, the technology for that, but also creating the products and solutions that every single market needs. So that is what we are doing here in LATAM and mainly here in Colombia, where we are here is our core.
Can you tell us a bit more about where your institution comes in and how you help businesses and institutions of all sizes really manage payments or at least kind of work together to create a better payments ecosystem in Colombia?
Yeah, we first thing that the central bank did was try to understand the context and the needs of the market. How can we move forward and what exactly we could contribute into that situation? And then we built a forum, the payment system forum, which is this like a space to have a dialogue, public-private dialogue with everyone. We wanted to talk not just with banks and traditional players, but also with fintechs, with new PSPs, with everyone involved in the industry. I think that has something to say, has had specific needs, and we wanted to understand them all. So we had a lot of roundtable discussions, we had workshops, and we keep having that conversation live. And after that feedback, we understood that the central bank needed to come through and provide a new payment system, a fast payment system, just like the PIX in Brazil, the FedNow in the US, and UPI in India. Whatever, and perhaps there had been different institutional arrangements, and not necessarily the central bank is the one behind all of those innovations and solutions. It is true that at the end, it is a very relevant authority that is involved in some way. So in the case of Colombia, we are building that system. We are building it, taking into consideration the opinions and feedback of the industry, which are the ones that are going to be using that those pipes and delivering the services for the end user, obviously. But maybe the main characteristic that this system has is that it's gonna interconnect with the private solutions. So we are kind of building like the interoperability hub behind all of the payment system. We are gonna guarantee that no matter where is your account or which exactly is your bank or financial institution, you're going to be able to send money 24/7 immediately to anyone on the other end. That's basically what we're doing.
Where do you see payments in Colombia going in the future? What is going to be the most exciting thing that banks need to be aware of and start preparing for?
Yeah, I do believe that definitely here in Colombia we need a lot to do. But what I think is that the most fascinating thing that we are seeing is the interoperability.
Okay.
Because definitely we solved several issues that we have with different closed loop ecosystem, etc. Now with initiatives like the one that the Banco de la República has is good because it's interoperability, immediate payments, and also putting together all the actors of the ecosystem. So the final customer needs to experience that no matter the payment method, no matter the ecosystem that they are working, definitely it's a single experience. I'm so excited about that, the cross-border payments regulation and the CBDC, because I do believe that definitely is a way to save money if we have a cryptocurrency for the country.
And that's about all we have time for. Thanks so much for watching this episode of the Paytech Show. Thank you to our guests and especially ACI Worldwide for facilitating some really, really interesting conversations. We hope you enjoyed, and be sure to check out more of our great content on ffnews.com, on our YouTube channel, and of course on LinkedIn, where the conversation will be happening. Thank you very much and see you soon.